So Peggy, my dog, who I've had since I was a very little baby, got diagnosed with aggressive breast cancer a few weeks slash months ago. And unfortunately, it's got to a point where she literally has no energy to do anything. It's hard for her to walk. She's not eating. She's not moving. She's not herself. And because of that, tomorrow she's already been to a vet and she got end of life treatment. And now we're at the stage where it looks like she's going to have to be put down, which was already in discussion, but so tomorrow she will be going to the vet and 99% sure she will be put down. So this would be the last time night that I ever see Peggy. Just like I said, tomorrow she could be put down. Today's date is 9th of January 2025, so tomorrow would be 10th of January 2025, which would be just 15 days. 15 days from my 80th birthday. You know, so I guess we will wait and see what happens tomorrow and let whatever needs to happen happen. Can't really say much else. 5 p.m. 5 p.m. 10:01 2025. Time of death. I don't really know what to say at this moment in time, but I do have a lot to say. All I can think of, all that I can think of what to say is it was absolutely tough. It was an absolutely tough decision. Yet it was a decision that had to be done and made. And I think the next steps are for Peggy are cremation and see where personally I'll go from there. She died in my arms, and it happened in about a second. And coming back from the vets, walking down the front path back down to my house, walking onto the back garden, walking onto the back garden and seeing her kennel where she was kept, and then coming inside of the house to where she spent her last few months. It felt very different. It felt very different. And here I am now. Got this paw print with deepest sympathy. And after she had gone, I asked if I could take some fur off of her, and they also gave us a paw print with it. That right there is her fur. Her fur, her paw print. I left, took a break outside the vets afterwards while that was happening, and couldn't help but just look up at the moon and the star or planets underneath it. Because I'm not religious, however, I've got no choice but to believe something. That she's gone somewhere. I just have to hope. She was my best friend, my absolute best friend. During COVID, during the time of me growing up, whenever I felt down, can't remember what I was saying. Can't think straight, clearly. She was my best friend through growing up, through lockdown, and all the way till the end. Because what I was wanting to say is every time that I felt down in lockdown or felt down in general, I would always go to Peggy, sit beside her, and she would always come and sit up next to me. I would stroke her in the head like this, and every time I stopped, would turn around like and give me the side eyes like, why have you stopped? I don't really want to talk about anything right now, so I think that's as much as I've got to say to get off my chest. I think at the moment, I just want time alone. I just want some time alone, and then when I feel ready, I'm going to express what me and Peggy did with each other. All the memories that I had with Peggy. Enough. Right here is the lead that she was on in the waiting room. And once we'd been taken to another room, another waiting room, a bit more private, I asked my mum to take the lead off of her because I didn't feel like it was appropriate, respectful, or necessary. So she was really just tired and just would not move in a way she did. She just simply did not need a lead. But I'm gonna just take time, come back, and explain everything after. As for now, all I can do is grieve and hope that she is somewhere safe. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. It's 5:41 a.m. in the morning. I've been up all night making a video for Peggy because what I did last night at 5 o'clock, 24 hours after she died, up the road there is a fire station. And when I first moved here, me, my dad, and my brother would all go take Peggy on a walk around the fire station. And she would love it, and obviously me and Harley would love it as well. And to mark the 24 hours after her death, me, my mum, and my dad went up to the fire station and we stood there in silence for 5 minutes. 5 minutes, as it was 5 o'clock when she died. I then, however, proceeded to do 14 laps around the fire station because it's a fire station and then there is a path all the way around it. Me and Harley and my dad used to take Peggy all around this path a few times, and we did a 5 minute silence, and I then decided to do the 14 laps around the fire station, holding this, which is a print of Peggy's paw, as well as holding this like that with it open. And then in my other hand, holding Peggy's dog lead, the one that she was wearing at the vet. Uh, One lap was meant to represent 1 year of her life, and the 5 minute silence was meant to represent 5 o'clock. It's been quite tough. I wasn't able, excuse me, I wasn't able to get to sleep. I was in my room talking to my mum in a way, and I asked my mum to stay with me because I didn't want to be left on my own. And I don't know if that's why I'm still awake now, but I didn't want to fall asleep on my own yesterday. But I ended up falling asleep, and I woke up at like between 10 and 11 a.m. feeling scared, panicked, because it's the realization of Peggy isn't here, and it's just somewhat not being able to concentrate. It's like I just wake up and feel panicked, like a panic attack. I didn't get out of bed until like 2 or 3 o'clock. My driving lesson was, of course, cancelled again, so I had nothing to distract myself. And I've ended up punching myself in the head and giving myself a bump. I've hit my head on something twice and then hit the object with my fist and actually ended up cutting my wrists. I felt quite snappy as well. Outside my window on the back garden is the kennel Peggy used to stay in when she was well, and I can't look at that the same. In fact, I feel like I can't look at it at all. The door downstairs in the kitchen where Peggy used to stay, usually I'd have that open and go sit with her. Now I can't have that door open because Peggy isn't there. And I don't like constantly crying and hurting myself in ways that I shouldn't. Because I know Peggy wouldn't like that. So I'm trying not to accidentally on purpose hurt myself, but I can definitely feel myself feeling snappy. I guess there's a few things I want to talk about, which I didn't feel like talking about yesterday, or the day before, or whenever it was, because of times. One of the things that I can remember is the early hours of the morning when I was getting ready to go to Morocco. Peggy was still sat in the porch, and there was some leftover pizza And my mum or dad had told me to go take Peggy into the kennel outside so she's not in the house locked in by herself. And I'm carrying her like a baby with her legs up in the air, and then I get past pizza, and as I'm walking, I go holding Peggy with one arm, and I've got the pizza, and I go to give it to her, and she's like, she leans over, tries to bite it, leans over again, and then grabs onto it, and then she's just casually there in my arms as I walk her, just holding the pizza in her mouth. And then I put her down, and she goes into the little bedroom part of the kennel where she sleeps and most likely ate the pizza. That's something that I can remember because I remember thinking, that's funny, she actually took it. I'm going to remember this moment. And well, she was gone in less than a month. But that's one of the things that I can remember. Another one of the things I can remember is I remember how I used to sit down. I remember how I used to sit down and like stroke her like this. And whenever I'd stop, she would slowly, I think I've already said this, but she would slowly turn her head like this. And then she would do that. And then she would like start getting closer to me for me to carry on. And I think I am missing that. In fact, I know I'm missing that. Something else as well is, you know how dogs bark at absolutely nothing? She's outside, and when she's outside, she'll always go to the gate and she'll start barking, 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 and I would get so annoyed and go to her and be like, Peggy, stop barking, there's no one there. Come back upstairs, carry on with what I was doing, and then have to go back down because she's barking again. But realistically, I knew I liked it. Made me feel secure and safe to have Peggy, whether home alone, whether just upstairs on my own, and hearing Peggy outside. Because now I won't be able to get up and tell Peggy to stop barking now. I won't hear her bark again. I don't think I've got any videos of her barking, so it's just all up here. Peggy was able to have 7 kids or puppies that managed to survive and grow up. So how I'm trying to think of it is Peggy may not be here. Peggy may not be here, but somewhere there are 7 mini Peggies running about somewhere and enjoying their life. So even though Peggy's no longer here, her 7 pups will continue her legacy. So Peggy will always be here in our hearts, minds, and through generations to come. It's just hard, isn't it? I've never had to put a pet down. I've not ever really lost anyone. I lost my granddad back on September 20th. However, it didn't affect me that much. It made me zone out a bit, like I don't have a granddad anymore. I mean, I still have a granddad, but I don't have any living granddad anymore. And it's now always going to stay like that. And then now, because I saw Peggy nearly every single day, and now Peggy's gone, it's had the most massive impact on me. I knew she was going to die that day. Whether I could be there or not, she was going to have to be put down that day because she was in too much suffering. So that morning when I left for school, I didn't know whether I was going to see her again or not. I remember leaving. I remember leaving the house and looking back, and Peggy was just sat there and watching me. And I'll remember that as well. And then after school, I had to walk all in the ice. And I eventually got there in time and saw Peggy. I asked my mum if we could take the lead off of her because I didn't want the leads on her because she had no energy. And I don't think, you know, she'd want to have a lead on her for a final few minutes. But I arrived. They then said you can go to a more quiet waiting room. There was 3 seats. My mum sat down. Peggy was sat in front of her. I was gonna go for a seat, but then I was gonna go for a seat, but then I thought I'm actually just gonna go sit down with Peggy. So then I sat on the floor, stroking Peggy. At this moment, I was still all right. Then I got my phone out and took some pictures, knowing these were going to be the last moments. And then after I took those pictures, I really did start to tear up. I felt my eyes watering. I felt tears begin to run down my eyes. I felt as if I couldn't speak. I stayed there, sat next to Peggy, and stroked her. With every vet that walked past, I was praying for it not to be Peggy, because I wanted to spend as much time with her as possible. We then got taken to the room where she was going to go, and then I sat with her and carried on stroking her. She was just such a good girl throughout it all as well. And then they came in with the syringe and whatnot, and the consent form. And at this point, I am really feeling myself tear up. but trying my absolute best not to cry for Peggy. It took 3 attempts to find a vein, and throughout that, she was not bothered. She was brave and just being fantastic. I was holding underneath her chin and stroking her ear because that's the places she liked to be stroked. And then I'm holding her chin, and they literally slowly start to inject it. In about half a second, she was going unconscious. In half a second, she was going unconscious, and within probably not even 2 seconds, she was gone. I was sat beside her, on her left side, holding her chin. They injected it, and she drops like this. She dropped, and then the nurse on the other side helped to lean her down on the floor. I saw her eyes literally just go. I saw her eyes just like dart across the room, like she'd like she'd gone dizzy. And then she fell, and that was that. When she fell, I can't remember if I was still touching her or not, but I had to look away for a second. I think I started having heavy breaths, hyperventilating. Then after about 3 seconds, I got the thought, what's the time? I asked what time it was, and it was 5 o'clock. Bang on 5 o'clock. What was done was done. The vets left and gave a bit of time with me and my mom on my own. And there lay Peggy on the carpet. Continue to stroke Peggy on the ear. I continue to stroke her on her ear and on her side. I asked if I could get some fur. They got some fur, and they also gave us some paw prints. And I remember having to leave that room, and I didn't want to. I remember right as she was going, I think I leaned in and said, I love you, Peggy. And I don't know if she heard it or not, but I know I said it, so. Her final moments that she remembered was me holding on to her and trying to show my best towards her. But obviously she fell gently to the floor and assured down, helped down to the floor. I stroked her ear for a bit longer while the nurse did, gave her some privacy or whatever. And then as we were leaving, I was stood up. I went back on my knees and gave Peggy a kiss on the head. I then got up, looked at Peggy one last time, laying on the floor, and walked out. I then walked out and looked up at the moon. And as I was going back inside to get whatever, like the um card or whatever, someone outside was there and just said sorry for your loss. And it took me a minute to understand. It took me a second to understand. My mum's just said thank you. I didn't say anything, and I just nodded like that. I don't know if they saw or not, but I don't know how to respond to sorry for your loss, but also I just felt unable to say anything. My mum was asking if I was okay, and it would just be that, or the vets would be speaking to me directly. I would just be nodding or going like that because I literally could not speak. But you know what? I feel nothing but relief that I went with Peggy. Because, like I said, Peggy's last moments were surrounded by me and my mum. So I feel relieved knowing that I was there for Peggy, and so was my mum, and that she knew it, and that I was able to get what I wanted to get, was able to do what was needed to be done. It is so difficult. Coming back from these walks, approaching the gate, and there's no dog, Peggy, running down that gate, wagging her tail, going up the garden and looking at the dog kennel and seeing the door is wide open, but there's no dog home, walking into the back door and seeing no dog laying on the bed, forgetting she's not there. Apparently, my brother woke up this morning to get some breakfast. He was making breakfast, which obviously making breakfast takes time and patience. So we thought, I'll just go sit with Peggy while I wait. He forgot. It is difficult without Peggy. Throughout lockdown, whenever I used to be sad or had problems, I'd go to Peggy or I'd take Peggy on a walk and she'd comfort me. I'd sit with her and stroke her and stuff like that and calm myself down. Peggy was good at spotting when someone was down. She didn't like seeing any of us hurt or shouting. She would look after us all. And I know over the past few months or over the past year, I've had ups and downs and problems with friendships and relationships and school or college or work or everything. And yeah, if it's like 2 a.m. and I can't get to sleep, or if I've got so much on my mind, then I can just go downstairs to Peggy and watch Peggy or sit with Peggy. I can go to Peggy whenever I want, 2 a.m., 3 a.m. Peggy will most likely be awake. I can't wake my mum or dad up at 3 a.m. None of my friends will message me at 3 a.m. Peggy was always there, and it's really difficult without her. I've just got so many memories flooding in. Right now outside, the UK is nothing but snow and ice. On the back on the back garden, there is still some paw prints from Peggy. When my mum told me, I didn't know whether to smile or just cry. Because those paw prints are still there, but Peggy is not. And my mum told me to smile. And I'm trying to smile because Peggy's still there. She's still got something there. I'm scared. Scared what it's gonna be like without Peggy. Because all I've ever known is Peggy. This house, previous house, nursery, school. Peggy has always been there. And literally just a few days, weeks before my 18th birthday, I was wanting her to make it to my 18th, but she didn't. I don't know what I'm going to be like on my birthday, but I know that you would want me to enjoy it. Suppose the dog really is a man's best friend, eh? I've nearly even been sick while crying, and I had to stop myself and count to 5. Don't really know what else to do. I'm gonna upload this video and then upload 2 separate videos Because unfortunately I can't just have it all in one video. Because nothing's working. And just to clarify, the videos that I've made have been really, really difficult in terms of emotional. They have been really difficult to make emotionally. Hence why I was nearly sick. Because I'm seeing and hearing, looking at the same pictures with the same song over and over and over to the point where it nearly makes me feel sick because I know that's changed and it's not going to change back to what it was. So I would appreciate if you watched it, as it will be linked down below. And please, if you've got any donations, go donate it to this. Thing is about this as well is that there's some grey hairs in there because Peggy had mostly black hair with a bit of grey hairs. I am really, really scared for what I'm going to do. But if you see this video, I don't think there's going to be any videos in 2025 for who knows how long. Which I do have many video ideas. But I guess we'll just wait and see what the future holds. Which I'm not really looking forward to seeing. Goodbye.